There's a story I often come back to. It's about two people, same job, same team, same storm. One breaks down, the other breaks through. Why? It's not luck, it's not intelligence. And it's not strength, it's something much deeper. It's resilience, the ability to bend but not break, to feel pressure but not collapse, to face the unknown with a mind trained not just to survive, but to adapt, to create, and to thrive. So today I want to share with you 10 ways, not theories, not hacks, but human ways to build a resourceful and resilient mind. Let's begin. Before you build anything, ask, why am I building it? A resilient mind isn't strong because it never doubts. It's strong because it knows what it stands for. When you know your purpose, the how becomes easier and the what becomes clearer. Purpose gives pain a direction. It turns obstacles into stepping stones. When life becomes uncertain or painful, we often search for strategies to cope, techniques to stay calm, bounce to more back. But what if the real strength doesn't come from reacting better, but from knowing why we're reacting at all? That's the power of purpose. It's not just a motivational idea, it's the foundation of a resilient mind. Purpose is what anchors us when the winds of life blow hardest. It gives us a reason to keep going when comfort, motivation, and even logic seem to disappear. Without purpose, even small setbacks feel like heavy burdens. With purpose, even great challenges become stepping stones. It's not about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about deciding that the pain has a role to play in a larger story. Think of someone training for a marathon. Waking up early to run in the cold isn't enjoyable. Dealing with sore muscles and fatigue isn't fun. But they keep going. Why? Because they've connected those hard moments to something bigger, crossing that finish line, proving something to themselves, honoring a cause. The discomfort doesn't go away, but it becomes meaningful. That's what purpose does. It redefines the pain. In our daily lives, we're often pulled in dozens of directions. Tasks pile up. People disappoint us. The world feels loud and chaotic. Without a strong purpose, we react impulsively, take things personally, and feel constantly overwhelmed. But when we operate from a clear sense of why we do what we do, we gain clarity. We stop chasing every urgent distraction and start focusing on what actually matters. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing. It just needs to be real. It might be the desire to be a better parent, to create something valuable, to help others grow, to protect the dignity of those who've been overlooked. Whatever it is, when you're rooted in something that matters to you, you gain an internal compass that no external crisis can break. And here's what's powerful. Purpose doesn't remove the obstacles, but it transforms your relationship to them. Challenges no longer feel like threats, they feel like part of the process. Rejection doesn't signal failure, it offers redirection. Delays don't mean you're done, they test how deeply you care about the outcome. Purpose gives pressure meaning, and meaning gives pressure endurance. This is especially important when emotions run high. Anger, fear, anxiety, these are normal responses to difficult situations. But when your mind is grounded in purpose, those emotions don't control you. You can acknowledge them without being consumed by them. You can feel them without losing your focus because you know why you're in the fight in the first place. Purpose also protects your energy. Resilient people aren't the ones who do everything, they're ones who do the right things. They say no to distractions, they set boundaries, they take care of themselves not because they're selfish, but because they understand that protecting their energy is part of protecting their energies. And when you know your mission, you don't waste time on things that don't align with it. In the end, resilience isn't about being unshakable, it's about being anchored. You'll still feel the waves. You'll still get tired, but you won't drift. Because you're not just living day to day, you're living on purpose. And that changes everything. There's a moment in every challenge where we make a subtle but powerful choice. We may not even realize we're doing it. We can ask, why is this happening to me? Or we can ask, what can I learn from this? That one shift between being a victim and becoming a learner can define the entire trajectory of our life. The victim mindset is incredibly human. When we're hurt, disappointed, or blindsided by something we didn't expect, our first reaction is often emotional. We feel powerless. We replay the unfairness. We look for someone or something to blame. And in that space, it becomes very easy to believe that we're stuck, that the problem is bigger than us, and that our control is gone. But the learner mindset sees the same moment differently. It doesn't deny the pain or pretend the setback is enjoyable. It simply refuses to let that pain go to waste. Instead of asking, why me? It asks, what now? It looks for insight in the discomfort. It understands that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of the process. Learners don't avoid failure, they use it. The difference between a victim and a learner isn't about external circumstances, it's internal. Two people can face the same problem, loss of a job. Betrayal by a friend, a project collapsing, and one walks away bitter while the other walks away wiser. It's not because one had it easier. It's because one decided to extract growth from the experience. Choosing to learn doesn't mean you instantly know what the lesson is. Sometimes the growth takes time. Sometimes we don't fully understand what we learned until weeks, months, or years later. But the decision to look for the lesson even while we're still hurting creates space for healing. It puts us in motion instead of keeping us stuck. When we shift into learner mode, we also take back our power. We stop waiting for someone to rescue us or for things to go back to how they were. Instead, we begin adapting, adjusting, and taking responsibility for how we move forward. Responsibility isn't blame. It's the recognition that we can still make choices, even when the options are hard. And it's in those small choices how we respond, who we ask for help, what story we tell ourselves, that resilience is built. The learner mindset says, I may not have chosen this, but I will choose how I respond to it. That choice repeated over time creates strength. It also builds confidence. Every time we learn from a mistake, we grow our toolkit. We get smarter, tougher, and more equipped for the next challenge. The same way muscles grow from resistance, the mind grows from reflection. And every challenge becomes a kind of training, sometimes painful, always valuable. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit. We stop fearing failure so much because we know we can recover. We stop taking things so personally because we know most situations are about patterns, not identity. We don't break when things go wrong, we adapt. We problem solve. We try again. The victim mindset keeps us small. It says life is happening to me and I'm powerless. The learner mindset expands us. It says life is happening around me and I'm growing because of it. Resilience doesn't come from avoiding problems. It comes from facing them, owning them, and learning from them. When we stop asking life to be easy and start asking ourselves to be ready, we become far more than just survivors, we become students of life. And students are always evolving. We often think of resilience as something personal, something built through grit, discipline, and mental strength. And while those things matter, there's another ingredient that's just as critical, but often overlooked: the people around us. The relationships we keep shape not only our experiences, but our mindset, our decisions, and ultimately our strength. We become stronger not just because of what we face, but because of who stands beside us when we face it. The truth is, no one does anything great alone. Behind every resilient person is often a quiet network of encouragers, truth tellers, mentors, and friends who hold them up when the world tries to push them down. These are the people who challenge us to rise, who remind us of who we are when we forget, and who help us see possibilities when we only see pressure. It's not about having a large circle. It's about having the right one. There's a profound difference between a crowd and a circle. A crowd might cheer you on when you're winning, but disappear when you're struggling. A circle stays even when things get messy. They're the people who can speak truth to you, not just comfort. They won't always tell you what you want to hear, but they'll tell you what you need to hear. And they'll do it with love. We are by nature relational beings. Our brains are wired for connection. We model behaviors. We absorb attitudes. We become like the people we spend the most time with. So if we're surrounded by negativity, blame, fear, and bitterness, those mindsets will begin to shape our own. But if we're surrounded by growth, optimism, accountability, and strength, those qualities will rub off on us too. That's why choosing who you keep close is not just a social decision, it's a mental health decision. Strong relationships create safe spaces. When we feel safe, we open up, we process emotions instead of bottling them. We ask for help instead of pretending we're fine. That alone can be life-changing. Because resilience doesn't mean being unbreakable, it means having the space to break and be restored. Sometimes the right relationship isn't the loudest one. It's the quiet friend who checks in, the mentor who listens more than they speak, the colleague who says, I've been there too. These people become mirrors reflecting back to us the strength we can't always see in ourselves. And when our self-belief falters, their belief can carry us forward. But building these kinds of relationships takes intention. It requires vulnerability, being open about your struggles instead of hiding them. It requires reciprocity, showing up for others, not just expecting them to show up for you. And it requires discernment, learning to recognize the difference between people who genuinely support your growth and those who drain your energy. We also need to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we outgrow people. As we evolve, so must our environment. That doesn't mean cutting people off harshly, but it does mean protecting your energy and being clear about your values. If someone consistently pulls you away from your goals, fills your mind with doubt, or keeps you in cycles of drama, it's okay to create space. The right relationships build strength not by solving your problems for you, but by reminding you that you're not alone as you face them. They don't carry your load, but they walk beside you so the load feels lighter. And in those moments when you question your ability to keep going, they help you remember your why. In the end, resilience isn't just what we carry inside. It's also what we're willing to lean on around us. And when we build the right relationships, we don't just become stronger, we help others become stronger too. Because resilience is contagious and real strength is always shared. Emotions are not weaknesses. They're not obstacles to success. They are signals, vital pieces of information that tell us something important about our inner world and how we're experiencing the outer world. But too often we either ignore them, suppress them, or let them run wild. Resilience doesn't mean shutting off your emotions. It means learning to master them, not control like a dictator, but understand like a wise leader. Mastering your emotional landscape starts with awareness. You can't change what you don't recognize. Most of us are taught to label emotions in black and white terms, happy, sad, angry. But real emotional intelligence goes deeper. What kind of anger is it? Is it frustration from feeling unheard? Is it fear dressed up as rage? Is it disappointment you haven't spoken out loud? Naming emotions accurately is the first step to managing them wisely. When you understand what you're feeling, you create space between the emotion and your reaction. That space is everything. It's where your power lies. Instead of snapping back when someone pushes your buttons, you pause. You breathe, you observe, you choose. And in that moment, you prove to yourself that you are not ruled by emotion, you are guided by insight. That doesn't mean you become robotic or cold. It means you're steady. Emotions still pass through you, but they don't knock you over. You still feel hurt, but you respond with grace. You still feel anxious, but you speak calmly. You still feel sad, but you keep moving forward. That kind of emotional mastery doesn't come from pretending you're fine. It comes from building emotional strength, just like a muscle. And like any muscle, it builds through consistent effort. That effort might look like journaling at the end of a hard day. It might mean pausing in the middle of a heated conversation and saying, I need a moment to think. It might mean going to therapy or talking to someone you trust, not just to vent, but to understand yourself better. These aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of wisdom. One of the greatest myths is that emotional people are less resilient. The truth is, people who are emotionally in tune are often the most resilient. Why? Because they don't run from their emotions, they work with them. They let their emotions inform them, not imprison them. They use fear to prepare, not paralyze. They use sadness to deepen connection. They even use anger, when properly understood, to set boundaries or correct injustice. There's also a deep sense of dignity that comes with emotional mastery. When you stop reacting impulsively, you begin responding intentionally. You stop being at the mercy of every bad mood, every rude comment, or every stressful day. Instead, you rise above, not with arrogance, but with calm clarity. You become someone people trust not just because you're smart, but because you're steady. Emotional mastery also helps you navigate relationships. It teaches you to listen without interrupting, to empathize without absorbing, to care without losing yourself. When you're grounded in your own emotional truth, other people's emotions don't scare you. You don't need to fix them or avoid them, you can simply be with them. That's a powerful skill in both leadership and life. In the end, mastering your emotional landscape isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about becoming someone who can feel deeply without being overwhelmed, who can experience hard emotions without being defined by them. It's the ability to say, yes, this is hard. Yes, I feel it. And yes, I'm still choosing how I move forward. That choice made over and over is the foundation of emotional resilience. It's what turns storms into strength. And it's how you become someone the world can rely on. Not because you never feel, but because you've learned how to feel with courage and respond with wisdom. In moments of stress, fear, or uncertainty, the natural response is to shut down, to tighten up, to brace for impact. Our minds start racing, imagining worst-case scenarios, amplifying every possible threat. Panic takes over and curiosity disappears. But if you want to build a resilient and resourceful mind, you have to learn to do the opposite. Lean in with curiosity, ask questions, and open yourself to possibility even in the presence of fear. Curiosity is a mental habit. It's the decision to explore instead of escape, to engage instead of react. When something goes wrong, most people ask panic-driven questions. What if I fail? Why is this happening to me? How can I get out of this? Those questions fuel anxiety. But curiosity asks different questions, ones that create movement instead of paralysis. What can I learn here? What haven't I tried yet? Who can help me with this? What else could this mean? These kinds of questions don't eliminate the fear, but they shrink it. Because when you're curious, you're no longer helpless. You're not just reacting to a problem, you're investigating it. That puts you back in control, not of the outcome, but of your mindset. Fear loves certainty. It wants you to believe that if you don't know what's coming next, you're not safe. But curiosity thrives in uncertainty. It sees the unknown not as a threat, but as an opportunity to discover, to adapt, to grow. And that makes you far more resilient because you're not waiting for perfect conditions, you're learning how to move forward. In any conditions, curious minds ask better questions, and better questions lead to better decisions. When you panic, your brain narrows, you focus on short-term survival. But when you stay curious, your brain opens. You see more options. You consider different angles. You think creatively. That's why some people seem calm under pressure. They've trained themselves to ask, not assume. The most resourceful people aren't the ones who know everything. They're the ones who are willing to learn anything. They're not afraid to ask, what don't I know yet? Or where could I be wrong? Because they don't tie their identity to having all the answers, they tie it to being a lifelong student. This mindset also changes how you view failure. If you fear failure, every mistake feels like a dead end. But if you're curious, every mistake is just new data. It's feedback, it's insight. That wasn't available before. You're no longer avoiding failure, you're extracting value from it. And that turns setbacks into springboards. Curiosity also softens how you see others. Instead of jumping to judgment, you start asking what's driving their behavior. Instead of assuming bad intentions, you explore possible misunderstandings. That builds empathy. It diffuses conflict. And it makes you stronger in relationships because you're not reacting emotionally, you're responding thoughtfully. And here's the beauty of it. Curiosity and fear can exist at the same time. You can be afraid and still ask a better question. You can feel pressure and still choose to explore. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to lead with something stronger. And curiosity is that leadership. It's your inner guide in unfamiliar territory. We don't grow from panic. We grow from perspective. And curiosity creates that. Perspective by keeping our minds open when everything around us is trying to shut us down. So the next time you feel the walls closing in, stop and ask something useful. Something honest. Something empowering. Because in the right question, there's always a way forward. Panic is a loop. Curiosity is a door. Choose the door. Every time. There's a level of strength you'll never reach if your only motivation is yourself. True resilience isn't just about personal survival, it's about service. It's about waking up every day and knowing that your actions, your choices, and even your pain can contribute to something larger than your comfort or convenience. When you live in service of something bigger than yourself, your capacity for perseverance expands. You stop asking, how do I get through this? And start asking, who needs me to rise through this? Service gives struggle meaning. Pain without purpose feels heavy. But when you're carrying it for a cause, for a mission, a team, a family, a belief, it transforms. You start to understand that your resilience is not just about enduring, it's about impact. You're not just holding on for your own sake, you're holding on because someone else benefits when you don't get up. People who serve a bigger mission have a deeper well to draw from. When energy runs low, when setbacks multiply, when discouragement sets in, purpose becomes fuel. You're not just chasing a goal, you're honoring a responsibility. That sense of duty, that feeling that others are counting on you, creates a form of strength that self-interest alone can't access. This doesn't mean martyrdom or self-neglect. Serving something greater doesn't mean losing yourself. It means anchoring yourself in something that outlasts you. It's the difference between building a castle and building a legacy. One might make you feel powerful in the moment. The other makes you part of something enduring, something that leaves a mark long after you're gone. And the beautiful thing is, service comes in many forms. It's not just reserved for heroes or leaders or activists. You can serve something bigger than yourself by being a parent who shows up consistently, a teacher who believes in students no one else sees, a creator who uses their work to inspire or heal, a team member who lifts others when the project gets tough. Every act of service, no matter how small, adds strength to your purpose. When you're anchored in service, ego begins to fade. You're not obsessed with being liked, praised, or validated. You're focused on doing what matters, even when it's hard, even when no one notices. That mindset builds a rare kind of resilience, because when the applause stops, the mission continues. And that mission keeps you moving when motivation runs out. Service also gives you clarity. When you're faced with difficult decisions, your values guide you. You ask what serves the greater good instead of what's easiest for me. That kind of thinking brings integrity. And integrity builds trust with yourself and with others. In times of crisis or confusion, the people who stand out are the ones who ask, how can I help? They don't wait to be rescued. They don't wait to feel ready. They take action, even if it's small, because they understand something profound. Your problems shrink when your perspective expands. Focusing on something larger than yourself doesn't erase your pain, but it puts it in context. And that context makes it bearable, sometimes even beautiful. Serving something bigger than yourself is not about perfection, it's about commitment. It's not about being fearless, it's about choosing courage in spite of fear. And it's not about being selfless all the time, it's about being purposeful all the time. Resilient people aren't just tough, they're connected. They've tied their strength to something meaningful. And that meaning keeps them standing when life tries to knock them down. If you want to build a mind that bends but never breaks, don't just focus on what you can gain. Ask yourself who you can serve. Then live your answer.